Cadillac. Did you know Cadillac's logo comes from a guy who basically made up his own family crest and also managed to anger a tiny red demon? Yeah, Detroit history doesn't get much weirder than this. Antoine de la Mothe Cadillac founded Detroit in 1701 and wanted a symbol that screamed prestige. The thing is, he wasn't actually noble. He basically rebranded himself before it was cool, added La Mothe Cadillac to his name, and created his own coat of arms. Those little ducks on the old logo? Not ducks. They're merlets. Mythical birds with no feet or beaks. They supposedly symbolize eternal effort and, in groups of 3, the Holy Trinity. As if his ancestors fought in the Crusades. Now, if you think Detroit only remembers Cadillac for founding the city, think again. He also managed to piss off the Nain Rouge, a tiny red demon who specializes in chaos and bad luck. Legend has it Cadillac ran into this little gremlin, threw some insults its way, and ended up cursed. Every spring, Detroit reenacts the chaos with a parade. People in red costumes yelling and chasing the demon out of town. It's chaotic. It's weird. It's amazing. And somehow this whole mix of mythology, ego, and chaos became the weird foundation of Cadillac's identity. GM quickly realized something. If you're going to build America's most prestigious luxury division, you need a logo that looks like it comes with a butler. And Cadillac's crest? Perfect. It looked royal, historic, and expensive, even if the history was creatively improvised. The crest first appeared in 1905 and then spent the next century going through more style changes than a Hollywood actor in a midlife crisis. The 1920s gave it an octagon frame. The 30s and 40s added wings so dramatic they looked ready to take flight. The 80s wrapped it in a laurel wreath like it just won the Automotive Olympics. And those ducks, the mythical merlets, yeah, they survived centuries of heraldry. But not the year 2000. Cadillac kicked them off the badge and never looked back, streamlining the crest into the sharp Alfa Romeo. If you're looking for the scariest, meanest "Don't Mess With Us" car logo, don't look further than Alfa Romeo's badge. But it's not just a random horror movie moment. That snake has history, serious medieval history. It's called the Bisione, and it belonged to the Visconti family, Milan's ruling crew back in the day. The snake has a few origin stories, all equally epic. One version, a Visconti knight takes down a Saracen warrior whose shield already had a man-eating snake, and they were like, cool, that's ours now. Another says a monstrous serpent named Tarantasio was terrorizing farmers, livestock, the whole countryside. And yep, one Visconti hero killed it. And then there's the fancy PR-friendly version. The dude in the snake's mouth isn't dinner, he's being reborn. Yeah, rebirth. The snake's basically doing a medieval glow-up. Either way, the Visconti slapped that snake everywhere. Banners, armor, buildings, probably their version of license plates. Fast forward a few hundred years and it is 1910. Alfa Romeo's designer walks past Castello Sforzesco in Milan, sees the old Biscone symbol on the gate, and goes, yeah, put that on the car. So now we have this legendary badge. Half Red Cross of Milan, half snake having a snack, all Italian drama, sitting on the front of some of the most soulful cars ever built. Porsche. Did you know the Porsche logo didn't actually appear on a Porsche until 1952? Yeah, for the first couple of years, those cars were just rolling around with plain hoods. Back in 1950, they only had the word Porsche written on the hood. But by the next year, Porsche teamed up with a Stuttgart doctor named Ottomar Domnick and hosted a design competition across German art schools. Prize money, 1,000 Deutsche Mark. And guess what? Nobody won. The students probably submitted stuff that looked like medieval shields mixed with spaghetti. Then enters Max Hoffmann, the legendary Austrian-born car importer in the US, the guy who turned European sports cars into American obsessions. So picture this. Hoffmann and Ferry Porsche end up at a dinner in New York. The food's good, the mood's relaxed, and Hoffmann's been watching early Porsche 356 coupes delivered to the US in the fall of 1950. They were great, but had one glaring problem. They had no real badge. That's when Hoffmann leaned in and whispered, dude, you need a real badge. Something that shows off where you're from and why your cars are fast enough to ruin marriages. Ferry Porsche loved the suggestion. It instantly clicked with him. So he reached out to Franz Xaver Rimspace, the designer responsible for creating the Porsche crest, one of the world's most recognizable car logos. Rimspace didn't just design a logo, he went full Pokemon hunting through Stuttgart's history. The first thing he grabbed was the rearing horse from Stuttgart's city seal, since the entire city originally began as a medieval horse breeding farm called Stuttgarten. Then he sprinkled in the red and black stripes, and those dramatic antlers from Württemberg's coat of arms, kind of like adding German seasoning to the badge. The horse brought the speed. The stripes and antlers brought regional pride. Put it all together and suddenly Porsche had a crest that looked like it was ready to challenge Ferrari to a sword fight at dawn. The finished crest first appeared on the steering wheel of the 356 in 1952, on hubcaps in 1959, and finally on the hood in 1965, where it's lived ever since. Oh, and there was one odd exception. The 911 GT3 ditched the metal badge for a painted-on logo to save weight. Because apparently every gram counts when you're flying around a racetrack. Lexus. Let's rewind to the early 1980s. A time when Toyota was already dominating the car world with machines so reliable people joked they would outlive their owners. But inside Toyota headquarters, that wasn't enough. Not even close. While everyone else was celebrating record sales and bulletproof engines, one man looked around and basically said, "Cool, but what if we built something that makes Mercedes panic?" That man was Eiji Toyoda, president of Toyota Motor Company. And in true final boss fashion, he handed his engineers a mission that sounded less like a car project and more like a challenge thrown at all of Germany. Make the best luxury sedan in the world. Not better, not competitive, the best. And Toyota took that personally. They spent nearly a decade obsessing over every nut, bolt, stitch, and panel, all leading to the Lexus LS 400. A car so meticulously engineered it made Mercedes recheck their warranty budgets. But before Toyota could launch their luxury nuke, they needed a name, a new identity, something refined, but not pretentious. So they hired a New York agency that pitched 219 names. Toyota rejected all of them. The one they almost liked? A Lexus. But that ran into one tiny problem. It happened to be the name of the rich, dramatic villain on the 80s TV show Dynasty. And Toyota decided naming their new luxury brand after a TV diva was probably not ideal, so they tweaked it, blended the meaning just right. Part Greek lexicon for intelligence and expression, part Latin luxus for pure, effortless luxury, and Lexus was born. As for the logo, Toyota wanted something modern, premium, and instantly recognizable. An oval for precision and timelessness. A sharp metallic L for that futuristic, high-tech confidence Lexus still carries today. Rolls-Royce. Rolls-Royce is the only car brand where even the logo feels rich. Like, if the badge could talk, it would ask you to take your shoes off before getting into the car. But here's the thing. The logo didn't start classy. Not even close. Back in 1906, Rolls-Royce rolled out an emblem that looked like someone dumped an entire medieval coat of arms onto the car. You had a lioness, a seahorse, wings, and the RR name. Basically every animal and accessory they could cram into one badge. And of course it was painted red, because early 1900s rich people loved red the way modern rich people love matte gray. Then 1911 happened. The year where Rolls-Royce announced, "Let's redesign this thing 3 times. First, they swapped the whole circus for heraldic lions, wings, a flower, and a ribbon with the words, "The best car in the world." Then they released another emblem, an Art Deco-style oval with the iconic double R monogram. But 1911 wasn't done yet. This was also the year Rolls-Royce dropped their most famous icon ever, the Spirit of Ecstasy. The Silver Lady wasn't just a random design. She came from a very real, very messy love story. It was 1909, Lord Montagu, a British aristocrat and early Rolls-Royce superfan, was having a secret relationship with a woman named Eleanor Thornton. Given that their romance was hush-hush, big scandal for the time, Montagu asked sculptor Charles Sykes to make a mascot inspired by her. The result was the Spirit of Ecstasy, a woman leaning forward, dress flowing like she's slicing through the wind. Rolls-Royce loved it so much they made it the official mascot in 1911. Honestly, peak British drama. They later reshaped the statue for aerodynamics, which took 830 hours, or roughly the same amount of time it takes a normal person to save up for a Rolls-Royce hubcap. After 1973, the brand shifted to cleaner, more modern logos. White RR letters on blue, then black on silver in the 90s. Eventually, they stripped everything down to just the RR, no rectangle needed. When your name is Rolls-Royce, you don't need borders. BMW, what if we tell you that the BMW logo might be the greatest accidental marketing win in car history? Everyone swears it's a spinning airplane propeller, and BMW just kinda nodded along for 90 years like, yeah, sure, that works. Turns out the story behind the logo isn't quite what everyone thinks. BMW started in Bavaria, and their flag's colors are blue and white. So when BMW made their first logo, they used blue and white quarters inside a black circle. That's it. No aviation magic, no propeller. Just, hey, we're from here. But Bavaria had a law. You couldn't copy the official state coat of arms for a commercial logo. So BMW flipped the pattern around to avoid getting sued. The logo is basically a legally safe Bavarian tribute. So where did the propeller myth come from? Well, BMW accidentally created it. In 1929, they ran an ad for their new aircraft engine, and the graphic designer said, "What if we put the BMW logo on top of a spinning propeller?" And that's how the myth was born. Then in 1942, BMW doubled down during World War II. Their in-house magazine literally printed the logo inside another spinning airplane propeller and basically said, "Yep, that's what it means." At that point, BMW wasn't correcting the story. They were feeding it. Fred Jacobs, BMW's archive director, later admitted they didn't bother setting the record straight, and it made sense. Why ruin a great legend? Associating BMW with aviation precision and engineering excellence sounded a lot cooler than "we followed Bavarian trademark law." McLaren. What if we told you McLaren used to have a kiwi bird as their logo? No, we're not joking. A cute, fat, flightless bird representing a supercar company. Yeah, that happened. McLaren was founded in 1963 by Bruce McLaren, a Kiwi who basically lived in the pit lane. The guy grew up fixing cars, racing cars, and then building faster cars so he could beat everyone else on the track. By the late 60s, McLaren wasn't just fast. They were dominating Formula One, Can-Am, and making other teams cry in their garages. So why a Kiwi? Bruce wanted a nod to his New Zealand roots, which is sweet and all, if you're selling Kiwis at a farmer's market. But in the world of 200+ miles per hour supercars, the bird looked about as threatening as a loaf of bread. The engineers took one look and went, "Yeah, this bird isn't scaring anyone." Enter the speed mark in 1997, a swoosh inspired by airflow patterns and the chevron graphics on classic race cars. And here's where it gets even juicier. When McLaren's long-standing Marlboro partnership ended in 1996, the chevron that had adorned every championship-winning car suddenly became a branding headache. They couldn't retire it, but they also couldn't just keep it as is without risking a lawsuit. The solution? A revamped, sleeker speed mark pushed further than ever before, officially taking over the side pods for the next 17 years. Audi. Did you know those 4 silver rings on an Audi aren't just there to look fancy or pretend they're Olympic medals? They actually tell a story of survival, drama, and early German teamwork. Back in 1932, Germany was in the middle of the Great Depression, and 4 car companies, Audi, DKW, Horch, and Wanderer, were barely keeping their factories from turning into fancy parking lots. So what did they do? They teamed up. Think of it like the Avengers. But instead of superpowers, they had tiny engines and cranky mechanics. Imagine the logo design team scratching their heads, thinking, how do we show the world that these 4 companies have joined forces? After some doodles, debates, and probably a few too many cups of coffee, they landed on 4 interlocking rings. In 1965, Volkswagen swoops in, buys the whole gang, and instead of tossing the rings like expired milk, they polish them up and say, "Yeah, these little guys survived a nightmare, let's keep them." Genesis, picture this. It's 2008, and Hyundai has spent decades fighting the cheap car reputation. And then they dropped the Genesis sedan. Leather seats, a smooth V8, enough power to make a BMW owner do a double take at the stoplight. People are stunned. Journalists are confused. Wait, Hyundai made this? But there's a problem. That little H badge on the front, it's still announcing economy car. It's like showing up to a black tie gala in a bespoke tuxedo from Walmart. Sure, you're dressed to the nines, but everyone knows you didn't quite belong. So Hyundai had an idea. What if they just didn't call it Hyundai? What if they launched a whole new brand? One that could stare down Mercedes, BMW, and Lexus without anyone whispering, "Oh, that's just a Hyundai." Years of secret planning, design, and testing followed. It was like a luxury car heist, and no one outside the boardroom could know. Then came 2015. Hyundai said, "All right, release the Kraken," and Genesis Motor officially became a standalone luxury division. But the real magic? The logo. No more humble H. Genesis got a full-on winged crest, a shield in the center, wings stretching wide like it was ready to soar over the German giants. It wasn't just decoration. The shield inspired the grille. The wings inspired the signature split headlights, and the whole thing screamed luxury, performance, confidence in one swoop. Designers even say they let the logo guide the car's shape, which is the kind of confidence you only see when a car company is really trying to level up. Before 2015, Genesis models outside the US already wore the winged badge, and in America, Hyundai ran a poll. Do you want the regular Hyundai H or the wings? About 20% went, "Give me the wings, bro," which is honestly a small crowd. But Hyundai took it as a sign anyway. Wings officially won. And that's how Hyundai went from, "Oh, that's a Hyundai," to, "Wait, did a Hyundai just school my BMW?" The Genesis badge didn't just signal a new car. It announced a new era. Bugatti. Did you know Bugatti's logo has survived more than 100 years without a major redesign? That's longer than most car companies even exist. Back in 1909, Ettore Bugatti founded his atelier, marking the beginning of the company. Ettore was part engineer, part artist, and all perfectionist. He didn't just want his cars to perform beautifully, he wanted them to look like they belonged in a museum. So naturally, the logo had to match. Enter the macaron, a deep red horizontal oval with Bugatti in white, topped with Ettore's initials in black. But here's the thing, the E is backward, fused into the B. It's subtle, elegant, and slightly cheeky, like Ettore was whispering, "Yes, I'm brilliant, you can thank me later." Originally, the macaron sat proudly on the radiators of his vintage cars. Every detail mattered. The 60 little red dots circling the perimeter weren't just for decoration. They gave the badge rhythm, symmetry, and a sense of precision, like a perfectly tuned engine in graphic form. Over a century later, the logo still lives on the grills of modern Bugattis like the Veyron and Chiron. Ferrari. What if we told you one of the most iconic car logos in the world started with a symbol of a fallen pilot? Back in World War I, Francesco Baracca was Italy's top fighter pilot, a straight-up ace in the sky. His plane was decorated with a prancing horse, which he'd painted himself as a lucky charm and a mark of fearlessness. Baracca became a national hero, but tragically, he was killed in action in 1918, just 25 years old. By the 1920s, young Enzo Ferrari was making a name for himself on the racetrack with Alfa Romeo. In 1923, he met Baracca's parents at a race, and they suggested something that would stick with him forever. Paint your cars with our son's prancing horse for luck. Enzo took the advice seriously. He flipped the symbol from black on white to black on yellow to represent Modena, his hometown, and added the letters S and F. Scuderia Ferrari, since Italian racers love their initials as much as their espresso. When Ferrari started building road cars in 1947, the prancing horse jumped from race cars to the hood, instantly becoming a symbol of speed, passion, and Italian pride. Lamborghini. Believe it or not, the famous raging bull on every Lamborghini hood exists because of an insult. Back in the early 60s, Ferruccio Lamborghini was already a successful tractor manufacturer, living the good life with a taste for luxury cars. Naturally, he bought a Ferrari, thinking he was stepping into the fast lane of Italian greatness. But when he took it for a spin, let's just say the car didn't exactly impress him. The clutch in particular was a nightmare. Being the bold Italian he was, Ferruccio did what any reasonable person would do. He went to Enzo Ferrari himself to suggest a few changes. And Enzo, ego mode fully engaged, dismissed him with a single line: "Stick to tractors." Ouch. Ferruccio didn't take it lying down. No. He took that slight and turned it into a challenge. By 1963, he had founded his own car company, one designed to show the world, and Enzo Ferrari in particular, what real performance in Italian style looked like. And when it came time to create a logo, the choice was almost destiny. Ferruccio was a Taurus, which already says stubborn, strong, ready to charge. Combine that with his love for bullfighting, and the raging bull was the obvious choice. Not just any bull, though. A Mura, a breed famous in Spanish bullfighting, known for strength, courage, and mess with me and regret it energy. Set inside a black and gold shield, the bull looks mid-charge, roaring forward like it's ready to embarrass every Ferrari